Do you think you're somebody? Do you think you're somebody doing something? Do you have a somebodyness? What is this somebodyness? Well, it's basically our ego. And a lot of us are attached to our somebodyness. What happens when we're attached to our somebodyness? We think we're somebody doing something. We think things are happening to us. We think we're somebody who has control. We think we're somebody who knows things. All these things are attachments, and all these attachments keep us trapped in the illusion, right? These are all traps. Where does this somebodyness come from? Well, the somebodyness is what happens when we identify with the actor as opposed to being the observer. As long as we identify with the actor, we think we're somebody. And as long as we think we're somebody, we're trapped in our ego. And as long as we're trapped in our ego, we're attached and we're going to be stuck in lower perspectives, right? This is higher self. This is the highest perspective. As long as we think we're somebody doing something, we're stuck in the cycles of thought and we're going to be trapped in lower perspectives, right? So remember, we are not our body. We are not our body. We are not our clothes. We are not our names. We are not our jobs, our cars, our houses, our relationships. We are not our thoughts. All these things are attachments that we think we are, we identify with when we think we're somebody. And when we think we're somebody, what's happening is we're causing separation. We get trapped in duality. We get trapped in the illusion, right? So where does this somebodyness come from? Well, we're born into a program. We are born into an illusion. And they rapaciously, I don't know if that's the right word, feed our egos, right? They feed our egos, especially when we are young, to create this somebodyness, to make us think we're somebody and that we're somebody who things happen to, and we're somebody doing something, and we're somebody who has control, and we're somebody who knows things. All these things are traps that keep us trapped in the illusion. Remember, the illusion needs us to keep thinking we're somebody because it feeds off of us in lower energetic states. So as long as we think we're somebody, we're going to be trapped, right? Because that's what is this somebodyness? It's the ego. We're getting trapped in the ego. So how do we get rid of the somebodyness? Well, we have to detach from it. How do we detach from the somebodyness, the ego? Presence and purification, right? Because every moment we stay present, we are detaching. We are no longer identifying with the somebodyness, with the ego. And every moment we stay present, we are breaking free from our lower perspectives, our somebodyness, thinking we're in control, and we're moving toward higher self or the center of the circle, complete detachment, surrender, complete surrender. So this is how we break free from our somebodyness. Remember, this somebodyness is created. This is creating separation. This is created by the illusion to keep us trapped, so they can keep using us, right? They keep feeding off of us. So the goal is to become nobody, as Ram Dass says, right? We want to become nobody. We need to get rid of this somebodyness, because as long as we think we're somebody, we're going to be trapped in the cycles of suffering, right? Because we're going to be identifying with things that are happening to us. We're going to be identifying with suffering. As long as we're somebody who thinks they have control, we're going to be suffering from the results of the control not happening the way we want it to, right? As long as we're somebody who thinks they know, as long as we're somebody who thinks they know, when we think we know, we're trapped in lower perspectives, because remember, there's always a higher perspective. And as long as we think we're somebody doing anything or having control or knowing, we're never going to be able to see the truth. Our somebodyness is keeping us from seeing higher, deeper understandings and truth. Our somebodyness is keeping the divine from communicating with us and working through us. So these cycles of thought, the illusion keeps aggravating and stimulating in us, is preventing us from being our higher self, from allowing God to work through us. I am God's eternal love pouring forth. This is what happens when we can detach from our somebodyness, stop identifying with being somebody doing something or things happening to us. Why do we suffer? Why are we stressed? Why do we get stressed and worried? Because we think we're somebody doing something and we think we have control. We're identifying with the actor when really we are the observer. What happens when we start to be the observer? That we start to stay present. When we're staying present, we're in the center of the circle. We're the observer. Stay in the center of the circle and allow all things to take their course. That's us detaching, right? What happens when we become the observer? We don't get trapped. We don't get caught in things happening to us. We lose our stress. We lose our suffering, because the reason we're suffering is because we're identifying with the suffering. We're identifying with the somebody who thinks they're suffering. Thinks they're suffering. Thought is the cause of all suffering. Stop thinking and get rid of and remove all of your problems. Right? So this somebodyness is kind of a big issue, right? We need to dissolve this. How do we dissolve it? Presence and purification. We have to empty the mind, right? We have to calm the mind. We have to dissolve the ego. This will bring us back to the whole, and this will make it so we no longer are stuck in the cycles of suffering. Because as long as we think we're somebody doing something, as long as we think we have control, we're going to be stuck in the cycles of suffering. Because when we get attached, because it's attachments, these are all attachments, any of our somebodyness and our attachments, right, are our attachments. They're keeping us attached to the illusion. They're keeping us attached to lower perspectives. And we want to break free from these lower perspectives so we can be the highest perspective, detachment. So basically, we need to stop identifying with the actor, right? To break free from suffering, because that is why we're suffering. Why do we ever think, why do we ever worry? Why is there shame or guilt or regret? Because this is us identifying with our somebodyness, our ego, and thinking we have control. And as long as we're attached to any of these things, as long as we have any attachments, we are trapped in the illusion. And we're going to keep, and as long as we're trapped in lower perspectives in the illusion, we're going to keep coming back around again, right? So the goal is presence and purification. Presence and purification will start to dissolve our somebodyness. So we will no longer identify with somebody doing something, somebody who things are happening to them, right? Somebody who has control. We start to become the observer. And when we become the observer, we allow God, the divine, our cosmic beloved, to work through us. And we no longer are trapped in the cycles of suffering. We are no longer trapped in the illusion, right? We get to evolve our consciousness as we dissolve our somebodyness. Do you think you're somebody doing something? We need to detach. We need to detach from our identification with the actor. That's it. Presence and purification, my friends. This is the answer. Presence, surrender. We need to surrender. Give it all up to our cosmic beloved who will take care of it all. We don't need to think. Remember, thinking is the cause of all suffering. I am God's eternal love pouring forth. Namaste.